I didn't know at the time, and then I found out, and it was like, Phil, you're crazy. You've got to do it. He goes, oh, well, something will come up. And then, like the next day, he got a call from Peter Mensch, who managed Def Leppard.
Your home for melodic heavy metal. This is the Signals of Intuition.
There's brand new LA Guns right there, the lead-off single Cannonball from their new album Checkered Past. You're listening to the Signals of Intuition, your home for melodic hard rock and heavy metal. And tonight on the show, we've got the singer of that band, Mr. Phil Lewis. Phil has also been the singer of Girl in the early 80s out of the UK and also worked with Bernie Tormé in the past as well. Bernie you might know as being a member of Ian Gillan's band in the 70s, and he also briefly played with Ozzy after Randy Rhoads passed away in 1982. So let's get Phil on the line right now. Hey, Phil, are you there?
Yes, I am. Just give me a second. I want to set up my speaker so I can... Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you perfect. Sounds great.
All right.
Okay, cool.
Great.
So when I do these, I always like to start at the beginning of you as a musician and then work our way up to the new records. So I guess going back to the beginning, where did you grow up and how did you get started in music?
I grew up in the United Kingdom. I grew up in London. I was a teenager in the 70s, and it was a really wonderful time. There were bands, the big bands like Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple and Black Sabbath. They were local bands. I mean, not local, but they were playing in theaters. They hadn't reached, like the mega stadium success they were about to. AC/DC, I'd see them in a pub. I saw AC/DC play in front of 65 people. And it was just a great, great time to be alive. Oh, boy. There were no cell phones. There was no internet. There was so few distractions. It was just girls and music. And it would throw in a little dash of motorcycles. And I was set. It was a glorious existence. And I had no money, and it didn't matter. I didn't care. It was all about music. And all my friends, though, my peers, everyone was into music. Everyone was either in a band or worked for a band or involved with somebody in a band. They were just it was all so connected. And although I didn't have any musical training, I had a couple of unsuccessful piano lessons, but it was just sheer osmosis that gave me the front to decide, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a musician. It's a bit like somebody just deciding, yeah, I'm going to be a thermal scientist, or it was a leap. But I got my first acoustic guitar, and I learned my first chords. I learned 5 or 6 chords, and I didn't fuck around. I was like, right away, I'd be doing open mic nights, and even just on the strength of my 5 chords, I'd be like putting not bands together, but getting people together so we could learn Hotel California, and it would sound great with 3 acoustic guitars and stuff like that. So that was the early conception of my musical abilities and aspirations, and it was great. Would I have been a better musician had I been to the Royal School of Music? I don't know. Probably not. I don't think so. I mean, I would have been a bit more dexterous, but I've got no regrets.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, too, I mean, it takes all types in the music industry. You need your people who are trained, people who went to Juilliard or, like you say, the conservatory or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you need people with more of the street attitude, like what you had. Someone coming from working class.
Yeah.
The music means a lot, and you go, I want to put my own spin on this.
Very much, yeah. And it was great. I really enjoyed playing guitar, and I got my first electric, and then I started dabbling with effects pedals and reverbs and delays and flanging, and it was great. I was just absolutely drawn to it. And then I answered an ad in Melody Maker in the weekly music rag, and it was a theater company called Incubus, and they were doing a play it's kind of a left-wing theater company. It was a play about aliens being shipped down to Earth, and for some reason, they're a band, and they're pretty good, and then they get managed by, some really questionable individuals, and it sort of becomes sort of political, and it was a very, very strange play. Now I'm trying to explain it, but yeah, that was my very, very first gig, in playing an alien in an alien rock band. My character was called Snake Hips, and most of my lines prophetically were LA, man. Yeah, I just got back from LA. Who would have known? I don't know, 10 years later, I'd be living there doing it. And so, yeah, that was the first gig. So, to get paid for music and to travel, because we toured England, and then we went over and toured Europe, Netherlands, mostly, like Holland and Belgium. But it was great. It was a great, great education for a 16-year-old. And it gave the foundation. Now, at the end of the season, Paddy, the CEO of the theater company, said, "Well, do you want to stay on?" And I was like, "Well, is the next project involve music?" He goes, "No, it'll just be strictly acting." And I was like, no, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be an actor. I wanted to be a musician. And that was that point. I just decided, okay, so it's going to be music. And it served me well.
So the first thing that I'm aware of you, and I guess most people, would be Girl. And that was the late 70s, I think you guys formed. How did that band come together?
We formed, that was right after Incubus, right after my decision to leave the theater company. I went into a studio and recorded my first demos with a guy called John Benson, who was kind of a big deal in the London scene at the time. I wrote some songs, and he said that he was going to produce it, and he was going to use his band to record stuff, and I was fine with that. And so we went down to Gerrard Street, like in Soho, after midnight, because that's when you could get affordable studio. I'm not sure if it was a 4, 6, or 8 track, but it wasn't more than 8 tracks. And we were all crammed into this little room, and it was great. I loved it. And John's bass player, Simon, was great. He made the stuff sound good. And his brother, Jerry, was in the studio with him, not playing, but just hanging. And I got talking to Jerry. We got on really, really well. And he didn't play on my demos, but he was there for them, as I said. And so we just said, he played a bit of guitar, and I said, well, let's do something. Should we do something? And he was like, yeah, all right. And that's how we decided in the studio on a rainy night in Soho to put something together. And we did. Our influences, I guess we would say, be like quite American, really, like Tom Petty and the Cars. And then there was this phenomenon that took place in London at the same time. There was this glam band. I can't even describe what kind of music, because it was jazz, it was everything, it was experimental. They're an incredible band called Japan.
Oh yeah,
that just completely blew our socks off. We just loved them, loved their music. It was so different. It was so edgy, because Jerry and I, we came from the punk scene. Like the punk scene started in like 76, 77, and we were right on board with it. So we wanted to be punk, but we weren't, not safety pins through your nose punk, but we wanted to be a little bit incendiary. And that's why we ended up calling the band Girl, just, to piss people off. 5 straight guys in a band called Girl. And boy, that worked.
So, I mean, in that band as well, you had Phil Collen from Def Leppard, or who would go on to join Def Leppard.
Yeah, Phil was in it. And, so we ran an ad. Jerry and I ran an ad in Melody Maker, and we said, well, what should we put, and they're all the usual, must car, travel, no drugs, blah, blah, blah. Didn't want to say any of that. All we said was peroxide guitarist wanted. And we got a bunch of calls, and then we got one. Hello, my name's Phil. Yeah, I'll play. Yeah, I'm in a band. And he was in a band called Dumb Blondes. It doesn't get more peroxide than that.
Oh, no kidding.
so we said, well, come down and have a play with us. And he did, and we got on great. We loved him. But it was apparent immediately that he was musically on a completely different level. He's one of these guys that had been studying guitar in his bedroom since he was like 13 or 14. So he was pretty much as good then as he is now. It's a bit disingenuous. I'm sure he'd like to, say that he's improved, but he was that good. He was really, really that good. And we were glad to have him, and he liked being with us, and it was a step up from Dumb Blondes. And we went and did some demos, wrote some songs together, Hollywood Teas, My Number, recorded them. And back then, it was around the time of, the videos it was like a fledgling thing, you made a video for your songs. And that's exactly what we did. I found a studio that, for the most part, just did porn in North London. And same thing, I got it from like midnight to 3. And we went in there and we just lip synced the demo. It turned out okay. I think it was like a 2, maybe a 3 camera shoot. It's very, very raw. And there we were. We got a band, we got a demo, and now we got a video of 4 songs. So we were armed and ready to do some business. And so we hit the labels, sent them cassettes and, like video. They were great big videos back then. They were huge. They were the size of small bricks. But, so word was out that there was this new glam band called Girl, and it was all guys. And so, yeah, we generated a little interest, and we ended up signing with Don Arden, who had Jet Records, who's father of Sharon Arden, who married Ozzy. And we just got involved in all that scene. We were around for the first Ozzy solo record. We were all it was close knit, and it was a lot of fun. Now, Girl didn't last very long. It was very short lived. The album came out in 1980, and we were done by 1982. And sticking with Phil, around that time when things started to go sideways for the band, for various reasons, but mostly it was never designed to be a long-term project. It's like bands like Def Leppard or Iron Maiden. Like if you put them in like a literary context, they're like a 10-book set, novels, and Girl is a 2-page poem, and that was fine. It was always meant to be that way. But around that time, both Iron Maiden, Phil turned down Iron Maiden twice.
Wow, I didn't know that,
because he wanted to stick with us. He thought, he'd much rather stick with us if we could get our shit together. And the fact is, we couldn't. Jerry was over it. He wanted to move on, and I don't think he wasn't really enamored with the music business at all. He liked playing, but he hated the business. So, I didn't know at the time, and then I found out, and it was like, Phil, you're crazy. You've got to do it. He goes, oh, well, something will come up. And then, like the next day, he got a call from Peter Mensch, who managed Def Leppard, and said, come on down, and we'd like to see how you sound. They were having problems with Pete Willis. And he got the gig immediately, no doubt about it. Of course, he's that good. And the thing about Phil is he's as personable as he is good. He's always in a good mood. He's a good guy, and you get that. And he's the kind of a guy that, yeah, you'd want in a band. He's solid and he's straight. He's a straight talker and he's good. He won't let you down. So, yeah, he was a great find. And it's amazing, all this time later, Jerry and Phil, we're still friends, and we're still real proud of what we did. And we were renegades, and Phil's always said that if we had the kind of management that Def Leppard had, or even a real man, we didn't even have a real manager, to be honest. We were just winging it. Had we had somebody that knew what they were doing, we would have gone a lot further. We would have done a lot better. But I'm not sure I really would want to have done that. I can't imagine. I don't think I would like it. Say if there were the 3 big bands that came out of England. There was Iron Maiden, and then there was Def Leppard, and then there was Girl. I'm not sure I'd be really comfortable with that. It's been an odyssey, and I've really enjoyed it, and it's had its highs and lows. But I'm glad Girl didn't make it huge like the other 2 bands. That was never the plan.
Yeah, well, that I don't really know the second record, but the debut that we've talked about, I've long been a fan of that, and you guys did it with it's like you said, it was charming. Perfect for what it was. It's produced by Chris Tsangarides, and the sound on it's great.
Tsangarides, yeah, and we got Chris because he was involved with Japan, the band Japan. he did their first record, their first demos. So yeah, that was a no-brainer going with him. But when we were recording it, we realized just what a great metal background he had, and I think he did a really good job with the greenest rookie band you can imagine, compiling that record together. There are times, okay, what song should we do next? And we don't know, we ain't got one. He's like, well, go and fucking write a song then, and write it quick. And it was a great, great time. The beginning of Girl was fantastic. The end of it was just fucking horrendous. And it was a full cycle. It was a full 2-year cycle, and when it was over, I was glad.
Yeah. So we're quickly running out of time. I'd love to ask you about Bernie Tormé, but I don't think we'll have time. But let's jump ahead a few years now to LA Guns. So from what I understand, you did the second record with Bernie, and it was like the next day or something, out of the blue, you get a call from Tracy. Do I have that right?
Not really, kind of. Yeah, I was with Bernie at the time, and we were working on a second record. Now, the first record we did, Back to Babylon, was absolutely fantastic. Mm-hmm. A real record, recorded in a studio, and John McCoy produced and did a great job producing it. It's great. It was a limited budget, but we pulled it off. Now, the second record really wasn't a record at all. It was a bunch of demos, that we'd recorded on Bernie's 4-track Fostex recorder, reel to reel. Audaciously, he mastered it and put it out. I never wanted that. I never wanted it to be released. They were supposed to be demos, and when we could get enough money to go in the studio, we were going to go back in and redo them. So I was I was more than a little disappointed when I found out that became an official release. The thing with Tormé, we were great, and it was such a bubbling band at the time, but at that time, rock music was a dirty word in the English music business. It was all about Duran Duran and Boy George and fun, and we were considered, scummy, dirty rockers. And although we would sell out all our gigs and we were making great music, great demos, nobody would touch it just because of the nature. They didn't want the rock. And they were like, Phil, but if you get yourself a nice haircut where you could put a band around you and really do something, like, fuck off. So it was a bit of a stale time. Bernie and I had hit a wall, hit the plateau. We were as big as we were going to be, and we started bickering. And it was pretty apparent that the band was on the rocks and unlikely to go much further. It was a shame because we were a really, really good band, but there was no opportunities whatsoever. Nothing opened up for us, and so it kind of just fizzled out. And that was around that time that I got a call from Alan Jones, who was Tracy's manager, who was involved in the English music scene, that I'd met like a year or so prior to that. And we hung out, we got on really well. And he was telling me about the LA scene. He was telling me about this great band that he's managing and are just about to get a record deal. And I was like, wow, that sounds fantastic. And then I didn't hear from him for like a year. And then he called me up out the blue and he goes, say, about that band I was telling you in LA, they need a singer. Would you be interested? And I was like, fuck yeah. Because he'd already sent me, some music from the band, just to play it, so something for me to listen to. And it was great. And he goes, do you want to join? And do you want to have a try for it? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, how soon can you come out? And I said, well, how about tomorrow? And we laughed, and he goes, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, I'm serious. So, yeah, it wasn't actually the next day. It was like a couple of days after. But, yeah, it was certainly less than a week. And I was on my way out to LA, and I'd never been back.
That's unbelievable. Wow. All right, so we're quickly running out of time. So let's dive into the new record. You guys have the new album, Checkered Past, coming out in November on Frontiers. Tell me how this record came together. Is this one of the, the COVID albums that you guys all kind of worked on during lockdown and so forth?
Absolutely, yeah. It's an entirely COVID record, and it was a blessing to have something to do. But it was apparent that it was going to be unlike any other record we've done because we were going to have to do it remotely. And so Tracy always works remotely. He whether he be in Hollywood or Denmark or wherever he is, all he needs is a laptop and his pedal board, and he's good to go. He can write riffs and put songs together. and he did a great job. He came up with the skeleton in about 10 days. He put it together, and it was just up to the rest of us to embellish and add to it. And it went very quickly, actually, because there were no distractions. So I had to turn my house into a recording studio, and which was no big deal. You know, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting back to engineering, and I did it myself. So I'd have to like do really long spaces of time before I punched like 10 seconds before the first line of the song.
So you can run to your microphone then, eh?
And then run into the booth and put my headphones on and be ready for the first syllable. So yeah, I got pretty fit doing that as well. But yeah, I mean, it came together great. Adam Hamilton compiled it. We'd send all our files over to him. He's a great new producer, and he's got the drums all set up. So he played drums on the record. Obviously, Tracy played guitars, Johnny played bass, and I did the vocals. And it came together really, really well, really quickly, and we're delighted with the end result. Have you seen the video for Cannonball?
No, I know it's out. I've been playing Cannonball, so I'm really enjoying that song. I saw this video, but I haven't had a chance to actually watch it, so I'm going to need to go and look that up.
Yeah, YouTube it. It's a hoot, you know, and I'm having a good time. I'm almost back to my old theatrics in it, and so we released that, and we dropped another one, sort of a more mellow acoustic one called Get Along. And the response is absolutely fantastic. Oh, just amazing.
We haven't done a show. That song, it reminds me of a 70s Led Zeppelin song. One of their more, subdued songs. It's
like something off of Led Zeppelin 3.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's right. And it's a nice vibe to be able to go from something like Cannonball into that, like our heroes, like Zeppelin. Zeppelin weren't one-dimensional band. They weren't like AC/DC. They had so many facets, and bands like Led Zeppelin and Cheap Trick will always be a bigger influence us than bands like AC/DC and Motorhead because of their variety and ambition to do different styles.
Well, that was something I was going to point out, was this album. I mean, no song really sounds like another song. I mean, you've got a handful that are definitely more sort of up-tempo rock, but I mean, you've got Better Than You, which is like borderline thrash metal, and then you've got Cannonball, which is just kind of a nice, sort of like an AC/DC rocker kind of song.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, you've got Get Along, you've got, I think it's called If It's Over Now. Do I have that right? Yeah. It's like number 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, that song's it's amazing. Yeah. That's probably my favorite song on the album. Like you say, there's something to dig into every song. It sounds like the same band, but like you say, it's got that sort of Led Zeppelin, like no song is exactly like the last. It's not AC/DC where you have an album basically the same song,
Yeah. Basically the same song, and God bless them. They're good at it, and they make a lot of people happy. I'm not knocking it at all. It's just that I prefer to do something a little more varied. But great, I'm glad you like it, and I appreciate the support. And you know most of the songs, but go and check out the video. You'll have a laugh. It's
for
fun.
Sure. Yeah, I'll dig into that.
I got to play dress up and get out of the COVID shell for at least a day, and I really enjoyed it. And it's a setup for the way the live show's going to be in the future. We got some shows coming up. We got a show the night of the album drops on November 11th. And then we got half a dozen local shows, LA, Vegas, and culminating at the Whiskey, our usual New Year's Eve gig, which obviously we couldn't do last year. Couldn't do any gigs last year. But yeah, it looks like it's on, and we're excited and looking forward to getting back into the saddle. You're gone.